I'd like to thank Prospect for working with us on this event and indeed for the last one. And I'd also like to thank a few of our partners who have sponsored this event tonight. So that's Gatwick and the New West End Company in particular. And it's great to be working with such great London institutions and organisations.
Everyone can analyse, everyone can ask questions, but when voters come to vote, they're not looking for a questionnaire, they're looking for answers. They're looking for people who can provide the answers to the severe problems that London has with regard to housing. They're asking how we're going to fund a police force with so little funding coming from the government. They're asking about how we're going to resolve the problems of air quality and also the key issue of Heathrow.
London is facing unprecedented challenges. Our population is racing ahead. We're at 8.5 million now. It's not going to be long, 15 years probably, before we get to 10 million people in London. And that is going to put enormous pressure on our transport system, on our living environment, and perhaps more than anything else, on our housing.
And I'm the only one of the four people here who's had some experience of being in City Hall as part of the executive, taking decisions, citywide decisions with regard to policing, with oversight of the policing budget of about £3.5 billion.
I'm a Londoner. I was born and bred in London. I grew up in London. I bring up my family in London. I know what the problems are that Londoners face. I know what it's like to have to go to your train station in the morning and have to wait for the next train because you can't get on the first one. I know what it's like to have to try and save for your deposit on your first home while watching most of your income gobbled up by rent.
Londoners themselves know that air quality is a big issue, and I think it's quite highly possible that sometime very soon in the future it's going to actually be more important than housing as an issue.
Thousands of people every year are dying as a consequence of bad quality air. And there are a number of easy things that can be done. The fact I'm told that 14% of all particulate emissions come from construction vehicles, which can be very easily retrofitted. That's a problem that can be solved relatively quickly. And cycling has gone up by 350%. So that is something that the next mayor is going to have to continue to facilitate a rapid take-up of cycling.
If we don't deal with the issue of central London and air pollution in places like Oxford Street, businesses will move. And they will not necessarily move to Manchester or Birmingham, they will move out of the country. We will lose that economic engine.
I actually do not see a future for for this red line that goes down Oxford Street of buses. Everybody knows that's daft, and it just astonishes me that we've taken such a long time to solve that particular issue, bearing in mind that it's not good for the customer experience.
I think we need to balance the agenda around air pollution, encourage zero emission use of particularly commercial vehicles and buses, and that's something that I said earlier in the debate. We can begin to charge more, expect people to pay more if they do use those high emission vehicles.
I've seen some of the ideas for pedestrianisation, but you have to ask the question, for example, those who want to pedestrianise Oxford Street, where would the buses go? And if the buses went on some of the other routes like Wigmore Street or Brook Street, actually what would happen to residents there? So I think these plans have to be thought through carefully, but it can be done.
I think there are question marks about Oxford Street in relation to air quality, and there are a number of proposals doing the rounds, but you would want, I think, to move towards a situation of increasing pedestrianisation of that street. It's a really important part of London, but it's completely blighted by this kind of wall of buses and the fumes they're chugging out. I'd want to do so with the consent of local businesses and local people. So I'd want to hear the arguments, I'd want to involve local people who are going to be most impacted by any kind of decision of that sort and take a view on that basis.